Is that called to order? Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Prince?
Here.
Ms. Perez?
Here.
Mr. Bavoni?
Here.
Mr. Taylor?
Here.
Mr. Corman?
Here.
Ms. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Person?
Here.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, all present.
Thank you, Megan. So first item on the agenda, we have no special presentations or proclamations, so we'll move on to administrative report. Mr. Covington.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, exciting news tonight. We have lots of different things. We have, as the council heard last week, the Renton History Museum has been awarded the full culture, for cultural equipment grant of $1,900, and they're going to buy a new computer, projector, some sound system for their many programs. We heard about that last time we were together. They're pretty excited about it. It will improve the museum's ability to offer multimedia programming on Renton's rich history. For Culture is King County's heritage and arts funding agency, and it's a supporter of many Renton cultural nonprofits, including the museum. And not to be outdone, our Public Works Department received a $675,000 water quality grant from the Department of Ecology to help fund the Harrington Avenue Northeast Green Connections Stormwater Retrofit Project. As the council is aware, that is part of our large-scale Sunset Area redevelopment project, and this funding will be very, very helpful to complete that project. We want to just remind the public, Sound Transit is preparing for a possible expansion of routes, what they're calling ST3, and so people can visit their website, www.soundtransit.org, and take the Where Do You Want to Go Next survey. That survey is available through Wednesday. We want to just let folks know and encourage them to join us again at the Farmers Market tomorrow. We will launch our new program to increase the availability of healthy local foods for everyone in our community. Beginning tomorrow, people using the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, will be able to use their EBT cards at the market. So if people are interested, they just need to go to the market booth, market manager booth, and they'll learn how to take advantage of this. We're excited to this effort is a combination of several different agencies to try to help provide better nutritional alternatives for folks. We have a couple of homeowners association picnics or neighborhood picnics this week. The La Crosse Homeowners Association will have their picnic Wednesday, and Maplewood Estates will host their annual picnic Thursday in their common area of Orcas and Southeast 2nd. The La Crosse Homeowners Association will be at the corner of 35th and Monterey Court. There are a number of street projects. Again, we just want to remind folks to have a little patience and use caution in some of these areas. We'll be in the area this week of Benson Road between I-405 overpass and Puget Sound, doing some work there. We'll be doing some street cleaning in part of our downtown area this week, and so folks just be advised. We're doing some stormwater work in the area of Seneca Avenue Northwest between Seneca Court and Northwest 4th. Next Sunday we'll be in South 3rd and some areas downtown doing some work and also preparing and then hosting the Return to Renton annual car show. So we'll have some street closures Sunday the 12th. And then next Monday, we'll be repairing and repaving an uneven asphalt joint on the eastbound lane of I-405 and North 30th. And so if people have questions, they can certainly contact our office, contact the city at 430-7400, and we'll get you to the right person. That is all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Covington. I wanted to mention a couple other things. Return to Renton Car Show will be Sunday downtown Renton. The streets will be closed off. We have thousands of people that come down to look at several hundred classic cars, so hope you can join that. We have a lot of great sponsors who are providing funding for scholarships that are issued through our police department. And then I also wanted to mention that, and I know many council members were down at Gene Colan Park on July 4th, and I wanted to publicly thank our city employees, community services, police department, and fire department. A lot of employees spent their 4th providing services for our citizens. We had a lot of people down in the park. It was a record-breaking hot day. There was a small cloud of smoke throughout the park all day from the wonderful barbecues. It wasn't from fireworks. And it was a very nice event. We had a few issues in terms of traffic, trying to get people out of the park at night. Every city who had fireworks displays had real issues trying to move traffic out, but it's something we're going to be looking at and see if we can refine some of the things that we did so we can lessen that burden next year. So anyway, great job by all of our employees. A lot of families down there having a good time. So it was a nice event, even though it was a very warm day. So next we'll move on to audience comment. We have 2 people signed up to address the council. When I call your name, please come up to the podium, give your name and city of residence for the record, and you have 5 minutes to address the council. We have a timer next to the city clerk. First is Howard McComber.
Howard McComber, MCOMBER, and I live in Renton. Just came to mention 2 things. Number 1, we've had some wonderful feeding programs, and a blessing to the people who are on the very bottom of our economic group here in this town. And we've had a lot of help from some of you up there that's just been tremendous, and we appreciate that. This city has given us tremendous support in doing things on charity. This is a very charitable volunteer city. Downstairs we have the Center of Hope, which is, I think, outstanding among all the cities. I don't think there's another one in Washington that has that sort of thing. An awful lot of it has to do with your support and Linda Smith, who is fabulous. But we had a little hiccup today in that we didn't feed the hungry this morning at Harambee, because Harambee is a church, one of our 30 churches that makes up Reach. But they have had an ongoing youth thing that they do, a little youth camp, and they have it 2 weeks in the summer, and we can't do homeless and the youth camp at the same time, and that takes precedence. But the problem is, we had food, we had volunteers, we had no place to put it. We need to connect it. So I'm just asking, this group is always looking, but I'm asking for the people who are out watching on television, if you know of a place that we might be able to rent or someone can work with us so that we can have a place that's, that we could feed the homeless, that would be wonderful. There's a lot of things we could do, a lot of services, and a lot of uplift we could give people if we had a spot. Doesn't have to be fancy, but it has to have certain requirements. And the city has been tremendously helpful in helping us get things the way they need to be so it's safe and everything else. But if anyone has some suggestions where we could get a spot where we can provide these meals and these services and other things we can do, that would be just wonderful. You can direct it to me, Howard McComber, and I'm in the phone book and I'm available anywhere, or you could call the staff here, they will direct it to us, or Maggie, or Linda, or Lee, and these are wonderful people. We have an outreach that works with the people on the lower end. We have Lee Weber, who does wonderful work. She goes around and she helps the people on the street. She does social work. It doesn't cost the city anything because she does an awful lot of it volunteer. She gets contributions from the church, enough so she could just squeak by. But it's all heart, and she does tremendous service. And there are so many volunteers that come out and help us. We have from every area. Valley Cities sends some wonderful young ladies that help us serve breakfast in the morning. All the churches have it. The fellows themselves, if they're used to dealing with it, and we can check hands to be extremely clean, sometimes they do great cleanup work afterwards. But we all pitch in, but we need a home. So if you can think of something, or you can come up with an idea, or if you know someone, if you could contact us and let us know, we can start working on that, because it's essential, and it's all to make Renton a more kind, gentle, and loving place. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Next is Dan Del Duca. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah, you got it. Can I ask you guys about your CA zoning? Looks like it's on your agenda today.
Dan, if I could just ask you to give your name and city residence for the record.
Dan Del Duca, and I live in Seattle, actually.
Okay.
Can I ask you guys about that?
Well, yes, I mean, in general terms, we can. If you have real specific questions, what we'll probably do is try to have the staff, well, I've got a member here that can probably answer some very specific answers for you, but go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm the one that's got that property up on Puget Drive that got stuck by the moratorium. And so then I got a letter from, or a memo from one of your people on the 23rd said the RMF zoning is going to be repealed ostensibly today. However, proposed that the moratorium on the CA will still be retained. Is that going to happen?
Okay, Chip, you want to come up and
Help me out there, Bill.
clarify?
Oh, you know those people.
Well, yeah, let me address the council.
Oh,
here,
okay.
if you can. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, yes, on your agenda tonight is consideration as a follow-up to the public hearing we had at the last council meeting on the moratorium on the CA zoning and extending that moratorium. Given the action by the council to adopt a comprehensive plan and modify some of the CA zoning to other zoning requirements like the residential multifamily or RMF that was referred to, tonight the administration is recommending that the zoning moratorium for the CA, commercial arterial, be continued to allow the council additional time to look at the uses and densities authorized under the CA zoning. However, for those parcels that were covered in the original moratorium as RMF, we're asking that those be removed. So if the zoning is RMF, there's no need for a moratorium anymore based on the decision of the council and the comp plan to identify which specific areas and the design standards that would be applied to the RMF. So this is really, the action being requested tonight is a scaling back of the moratorium to only apply to the CA and to remove the RMF and allow people who have RMF zone properties to continue to develop now.
Did that answer your question?
It does, but I'm a CA, so I'm stuck.
And, Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Yeah,
Mr. Corman.
Can I ask Mr.
And-
Del Duca,
Del Duca.
can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about what your concern is, or?
Well, a couple of years ago, my boss asked me to check the property out. It's a vacant big parcel up there on Puget Drive. And so this was a year before you guys did the moratorium, so I came down and talked to staff, and the staff, who I've known for years, I've worked with this staff for a long time. But anyway, it looked like the density for the CA zoning, which would be ostensibly some 100 units, may be achievable given the other hurdles. But then I started the development on the project, but then we weren't warned, and then the moratorium happened and locked the land up. And needless to say, my boss paid a lot of money for that property. So then it became virtually worthless. So now we've waited a year. He's now out another $80,000 just waiting in mortgage and carry taxes. So then about a month ago, I got, or maybe two, it looked like the zoning was going to get changed to R14, which would have been okay for us. We just want to build homes. So, but then the next word I got was on the 23rd, where it says the moratorium will still stand on the CA. And so my project's just dead stuck.
I see.
And this, I'm sure you can understand, this really hurts. Really hurts a lot. So I then asked her if I could go ahead and prepare and submit the thing as an R14. But if you have a moratorium on it, I'm kind of stuck. Yeah. So I know Chip, actually.
Yeah.
And so maybe this is something I could just talk to you about later.
Yeah.
That'd be fine, but if council has any questions of Chip, or if you had something else you wanted to add, Chip?
The only thing I'd like to add is on the referral for next Planning and Development Committee tonight is to take up the CA alternatives. And so I just wanted to tell anyone with CA zoning that the city's moving through this process as quickly as possible so we can remove the moratorium. But we really need to look at the densities, the uses, and consider those things so we can the council can make an informed decision on where the CA and the density and uses are appropriate in the city.
Well, can I ask this one more? Excuse me.
Sure, yeah,
Time is
please.
so darn
come to
critical.
the- come up to-
And you may know this.
Now, come on up to the microphone, you gotta address the council.
So you guys wouldn't even know how much longer this moratorium would carry then?
Other than, I think the goal is to move it through the system quickly. So, I don't know, Chip, you may have an idea of how quickly can be, but
Yes, Mr. Mayor, council members, we're hoping to move through this within a couple months. I mean, you're going to hear it, for the next Planning and Development Committee, that we're going to move through this as expeditiously as possible, because we understand people have been waiting, and we're trying to move through this really quickly.
There's going to be a lot of people paying to just hold property, and they, yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then I guess I had one comment, and Chip, I know until you look at the exact circumstances, you probably can't answer this, but can you give me a notion about would R14, with where the staff might go, would R14 still be allowed in that?
Oh, yeah, that density would be allowed under the CA. The moratorium, though, says all new residential development within the CA zone. We allow commercial today. So the R14 would, I can tell you, would probably be okay in most circumstances. But again, we don't want to jump ahead, but without giving the Planning Commission and the council an opportunity to really make a more informed choice about where that density is appropriate around the city and the CA.
So there's a little bit of uncertainty now, and then there's a 2-month delay in the formal approval, but you could work with them to talk about what possibilities are.
Exactly. I'd be glad.
at least there is some time that you can refer to. And won't be a year from now.
Well,
Looking at a
for
couple
guys like
months.
me, it takes months to set one up, even for intake. And so even if I had a target I could shoot to, probably not right phrase, but even if I had a clue about where this could go, at least I could start setting it up. I mean, it's a toughie,
Okay.
and he'd be the guy.
And we would be glad to, we've worked with a number of applicants to go ahead and have what's called their pre-application meeting in advance of the decision being made final by the council, so that they can start getting their ducks in a row, so they're ready to submit the minute the moratorium goes away. They can come in the next day.
Hopefully
submit
they
their
don't have to
materials.
lose too much time doing that.
Okay, thanks, Chip. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, give me-
Okay, moving on to consent agenda. We have 7 items for council consideration. Are there any items a council member would like pulled for discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Prince.
seeing none, I move that we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
It's been moved by Mr. Prince, seconded by Mr. Corman, that council approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to unfinished business, Mr. Prince.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Ms. Perez.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Pavoni.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Taylor.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Corman.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Palmer.
No unfinished business.
And finally, we got some work. Mr. Person.
Well, I had to come back from vacation to handle this. It was such a big deal. I have one finance committee report.
Okay, the Finance Committee report is approval of claims and payroll vouchers. The Finance Committee approves for payment on July 6th, 2015, claims vouchers 338734 through 339514, 4 wire transfers and 2 payroll runs with benefit withholding payments totaling $12,284,217.40, and payroll vouchers including 1,511 direct deposits and 196 payroll checks totaling to $3,230,310.58. And this is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Person.
I move the council concur in the recommendation of the finance committee.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Person, seconded by Mr. Taylor, that council concur with the Finance Committee report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, moving on to resolutions and ordinances. We have one resolution this evening.
A resolution of the City of Renton, Washington, amending the moratorium on accepting applications for residential development within the CA, Commercial Arterial, and RMF, Residential Multifamily Zones, except within the city center community area, and for previously approved and valid land use applications, by rescinding the moratorium as it relates to the RMF zone.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Corman.
I move approval of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Corman, second by Ms. Palmer, that council adopt the resolution as read. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thanks, Megan. Moving on to new business, Mr. Prince.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I've got a committee of the whole committee meeting for Monday, July 13th at 6 p.m. We have two items in the 7th floor conferencing center. Two items on the agenda, economic development update and regional issues. That is all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Perez.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The Community Service Committee, will be meeting at the Council Conference Room at 5:30, and there are two items on the agenda. The 2015 Take a Warrior Fishing Event free waiver request, and the 2015 Cast for Kids Fishing Event fee waiver request. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pavoni.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Taylor.
Yes, the Utilities Committee that normally would be scheduled for on the 13th is canceled. That is all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Corman.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to announce a Planning and Development Committee meeting for July 13th, 4:30 p.m. in the council conference room. There's two items on that agenda. First is Commercial Arterial Development Rules Briefing, and the second item is Residential Building Heights Briefing. And that's all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Palmer.
Yes, the Transportation Committee will meet tomorrow, which is July 7th, 11 a.m. in the council conference room. There are three items on the agenda. First is the Sunset Lane project briefing. Second is Rainier Flight Services lease briefing. And third is emerging issues in transportation. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Person?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, no committee meetings to announce. However, I'd like to bring up a subject to refer to the committee of the whole for a discussion and a briefing. And especially with this warm weather that we're having, as you drive around the city, we've required businesses to put in landscaping and that, and and we've spent a lot of money on our roads, upgrading them, and so many of them aren't taking care of them. So I'd like to refer that, and then also just a general cleanliness and the events that are happening in the downtown, and just so we could sit around the table and have a discussion with the council views is important. So
okay.
With that, I move that issue be referred to the committee of the whole.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Person, second by Mr. Prince, that the topic of required landscaping maintenance and also the cleanliness issues in the downtown be referred to committee of the whole. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, so unless Kathy Corman wants to address the council, Randy Corman has moved that we adjourn.
Yeah.
Second?
Second.
Moved by Randy Corman, second by Mr. Person, that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.